In this clip, we're going to discuss how to get started on entering your inventory count into Aspect software. To get started, you want to go to Inventory and Edit Inventory Count. Please note that all counts are to be considered as of close of business. Therefore, if you inventory on Sunday night, you would enter all your information in on Sunday's date. But if you do your inventory counts Monday morning before you open, you would still enter it on Sunday's date. Once you've determined the date, go ahead and enter that in and load your report. Once the report's loaded, you're going to have a variety of different ways to view this information. By clicking your binoculars, you can determine what report you need and also edit that report to make it easier to use. You have three basic reports to get started. Your inventory worksheet, which is the report that you would want to physically print to walk around your restaurant and to count your products. You would also have an inventory count. An inventory count is the sheet where you're going to enter all your data in. Your dollars on hand report is simply a way for you to view your information once you've determined and entered in all the data. So first, let's look at an inventory worksheet. Once again, this is the report that you're going to want to print to go walk around and count your physical products. Now, this is an example of what you're looking at here of an inventory worksheet. Notice you have different alternative count sizes, and if you were to print this sheet, under the record count column, you would see lines for you to walk around and enter counts. Now, you can edit this very easily. Oh, notice on this report, before I show you this, notice here how this particular report has food, beer, liquor. It has everything that you've entered in under your edit inventory items. So now, to make things easier, you're going to want to filter this report, perhaps separating it by food and bar to make it easier for your managers to walk around and do inventory counts. To do that, you'd want to hit your binoculars and then choose Custom. The first thing is, let's make an inventory worksheet for just your food. To do that, you could simply create a worksheet, and I have to abbreviate because I'm only limited in space. And I'm going to call it Inventory Worksheet Food. Now here, under Group, I can filter the report to what I want to see. I want to see all my food, so I'm going to put total food. Then, I don't use the alternative count sizes for this particular example, so I also want to remove them from my report, giving me more space. Once I've determined how the report is going to look, I go ahead and hit Save, and I choose OK. My report's now changed to where I'm looking strictly at my food, and I only have one spot for my record count. Once again, when I print this report, I would be able to walk around the restaurant, count my products, and then turn it in or get ready to data entry it into the system. So to kind of review, you would click your binoculars, choose Custom, decide what report you want to run. In this case, I'm saying bar. I'm going to switch this to say total bar. Once again, I'm going to save this format. If I don't save it, I would have to do this every time. But by saving this report, it will then show up on my list, and I'll have this format every time I want it. Notice here, draft beer and liquor. Notice when I choose my binoculars as well, the reports are saved as I need them. So you're now ready to print this sheet, walk around the restaurant, and count your product. Once that's done, you're ready for data entry or to enter the numbers into Aspect. To do that, you want to go to Inventory Count. Now notice when I hit Inventory Count, I have my list. Also notice once again, this is including liquor, beer, wine, and things like that. And you see several other different columns. Instead of record count, you see total count. That's the total number that you would put in. You also see perpetual on hand, the price per product, and variances. To explain each column, the price is simply the price per unit that you have determined what the count is. So for example, I may still pay $9 for a pound of filet, but my price is $4.50 for every single individual filet for each. Here, I pay $19.50 a pound for tenderloin. My perpetual on hand is simply what the computer thinks I'm supposed to have on hand based on a previous count, any invoices entered in the system, and then any usage deducted based on my recipes. If you haven't done recipes, or if you haven't plugged any invoices in or are missing invoices, this number does not necessarily reflect anything accurate, but it is a good number to view to give you a guideline on what you should have in the restaurant. Total count is obviously going to be the number that you plug in once you've entered your count, and the variance in units would be the difference between what you've plugged in and versus what the perpetual is. And the dollars would be the difference in dollars based on what the perpetual thinks you should have and what your total count is. But let's get back to actually just entering in the numbers. First, you can take this report and filter it just like you did your worksheets. Simply, once again, by going to Custom, you can choose Bar, and we can filter it to the Group bar. Once again, saving this report, I now have my bar in specific order. This is really convenient because it makes it easy for you to go from your worksheet, which should be in front of you on paper with the handwritten amounts of your product, and to enter that item in. To get started, you would simply double-click on the first item and start entering in your count. For example, let's say I had 1.5 of these. I would go 1.5, enter. And then it will automatically prompt me to my next count. 1.1, enter. 2.3 or 4, enter. And you can see that it's going right down the line. Notice Aspect also has the capability of using addition, subtracting, and multiplication to accurately enter your counts. So for example, let's say here I had 1.2 plus I had an additional 3 in my cooler. When I hit enter, notice it's added the counts to 4.2. Notice here, as I enter these counts, there are different ways. These are the alternate count sizes that you entered when you were doing your edit inventory counts. Would be maybe more applicable with food, so we could go look at a food sheet. I'm going to hit Custom, change this to Food, and change this name to Food, and I'm going to save this format once again. I haven't lost my counts on the beer that I entered, but now I'm looking at food. Perhaps on my fillets, for example, not a good example. Perhaps on my chicken, I count this by the pound, but maybe you also count it by the case. And if I had predetermined that on my inventory items, you can count this in multiple ways. Once again, to go enter a count, just double click on the first item and start entering in my count sheet. The format that you're looking at here is to be used for edit count areas, which we will explain in the next section.